When Han Xin was killed, Liu Bang breathed a sigh of relief. When Lan Yu was executed, Zhu Yuanzhang did not hesitate. When Nian Gengyao was ordered to kill himself, Yongzheng said 4 words, a great relief. 3 different dynasties, 3 different emperors. The same decision, kill the man who helped you win the empire. Is this really a coincidence? Start with Han Xin. As a young man, Han Xin was too poor to eat. On the street one day, a local thug forced him to crawl between his legs in front of a crowd. Han Xin crawled, not because he was afraid, because he knew his life was not worth wasting on someone like that. Later, he joined Liu Bang's rebellion and rose from a nobody to supreme commander. He feigned a road repair through the Qinling Mountains while secretly marching his army through Chenkang, seizing the entire Guangdong region in one stroke. At the Battle of Jingxing, he placed his troops with their backs to the river, leaving them no option but to fight to the death, and routed an army of 200,000 with just 2,000 men. At Gaixia, he trapped Xiang Yu in a 10-sided ambush and drove the most feared warlord in China to suicide at the banks of the Wu River. From crawling between a thug's legs to being crowned a king, the whole arc took only a few years. Liu Bang himself once said, "When it comes to winning every battle and taking every stronghold, I am no match for Han Xin." He meant it. Without Han Xin, the war between Chu and Han might have ended very differently. But once the empire was secure, everything changed. Han Xin was stripped of his military command, demoted from King of Chu to Marquis of Huayin, and placed under house arrest in the capital. He was eventually lured into a trap by Empress Liu and killed in the bell chamber of Changle Palace. Did Liu Bang not understand what Han Xin had done for him? Of course he did. That was precisely the problem. A man capable of winning you an empire is, in theory, also capable of taking it away from you. Even if he has no such intention, the fact that he has the ability is enough. Now look at Lan Yu. After the Ming dynasty was founded, the remnants of the Northern Yuan remained a persistent threat. In the 21st year of the Hongwu reign, Lan Yu led 150,000 troops on a northern expedition, chasing the Mongol forces all the way to Lake Buer-Nur, in present-day Mongolia. The Yuan army was caught completely off guard. In a single battle, Lan Yu destroyed the last fighting force of the Northern Yuan court, capturing nearly 80,000 people, including members of the royal family, officials, and soldiers. It was the most decisive Ming victory against the Mongols. After that campaign, Lan Yu was the highest-ranking living general in the empire. But the war was over. The empire was stable. Zhu Yuanzhang began restructuring the power hierarchy. The Lan Yu case erupted. Lan Yu was executed on charges of treason, and the purge swept up 15,000 people. 15,000. The historical records say he was arrogant and overbearing, that he kept private slaves and seized farmland. These may all be true, but the more fundamental issue lay elsewhere. When an emperor no longer needs a general who can sweep across the steppe, that general's very existence becomes a destabilizing factor. Finally, Nian Gengyao. When Yongzheng first took the throne, his grip on power was far from secure. Several of his brothers commanded their own factions, and a rebellion had broken out in the northwest. Nian Gengyao controlled the entire northwestern military system and was the one person Yongzheng needed most. In the Qinghai campaign, Nian Gengyao led 5,000 light cavalry in a surprise strike on the rebel base camp, destroying the enemy in a single blow. When the victory report reached Beijing, Yongzheng was so elated that in his private memo he used a word almost unheard of between ruler and subject: benefactor, an emperor calling his own minister a benefactor. Nian Gengyao absorbed the weight of that word. What he did not realize was that he had also caught a ticking bomb. 2 years later, stripped of rank, escorted under guard, ordered to kill himself, 92 charges. From the heart of the empire's military power to nothing at all in less than a year. 3 men, 3 dynasties, the same ending. This is not a matter of personality. It is not that any particular emperor was unusually heartless. It is a structural dilemma. Almost every new dynasty faced the same question. Can the people who win the empire also be the people who hold it? Winning an empire demands risk-taking, decisiveness, and independent judgment, qualities that are life-saving on the battlefield. But holding an empire demands the exact opposite: stability, control, and absolute authority. A man who can charge through chaos rarely knows how to quietly step aside when order is restored. And a man who needs to sit securely on the throne cannot allow someone beside him who once had the power to reshape the entire situation. At a certain stage, these meritorious generals were irreplaceable. Han Xin for Liu Bang, Lan Yu for Zhu Yuanchang, Nian Gengyao for Yongzheng. Without them, the wars could not have been won and the thrones could not have been held. But once a dynasty was secure, the word irreplaceable transformed from the highest praise into the most dangerous signal. The logic of imperial power is clear. Everyone must be replaceable. No matter how loyal you are, no matter how free of ambition, the question is not whether you want to rebel. The question is whether you could. But not every founding hero died. Liu Bang killed Han Xin, but Zhang Liang survived. What did Zhang Liang do? The moment the empire was won, he announced that he was frail and sickly, that he wished to retire and study the Tao, and then he vanished from the center of power entirely. It was not that he did not want power. It was that he understood something clearly. The more important you were on the battlefield, the more dangerous you become in peacetime. The only way to survive is to make the emperor believe you no longer pose any kind of threat. Zhu Yuanzhang killed Lan Yu, but Tang He survived. Tang He was Zhu Yuanzhang's childhood friend from the same village. They had fought side by side since the very beginning, and his seniority far exceeded Lan Yu's. But he did one thing: he voluntarily surrendered his military command and asked permission to retire to his hometown. Even that was not enough. He deliberately kept a low profile, avoided contact with local officials, and stayed out of all political affairs. Every time Zhu Yuanzhang received a report that Tang He was behaving himself back home, it bought him another measure of trust. Tang He died of natural causes at 70, an almost unheard of feat under Zhu Yuanzhang's reign. Zhang Liang and Tang. He saw what Han Xin and Lan Yu never did. The greater your contribution, the sooner you need to step back. Ability lifts you up, but past a certain threshold, that same ability becomes a variable that needs to be eliminated. This is the curse of being too useful. In times of chaos, their abilities were life-saving. In times of stability, their abilities were uncontrollable, and power despises the uncontrollable. So merit becomes burden, presence becomes threat, ability becomes curse. But is being too useful truly an unsolvable death sentence? Not necessarily. Zhang Liang survived. Tang He survived. In the Tang dynasty, Guo Ziyi was credited with saving the empire itself, commanded vast armies, yet he deliberately removed the gates of his own mansion so that anyone could walk in at any time. He traded transparency for safety. He lived to 85. These men were just as capable as Han Xin, Lan Yu, and Nian Gengyao. They had achieved just as much. The difference was not in the size of their ability, but in the fact that they saw one layer deeper. The situation was changing, and their role had to change with it. When you are winning the empire, you are the blade. Once the empire is won, you cannot still be the blade. You have to become someone who does not need to be worried about. This is not weakness, it is clarity. Han Xin believed until the end that his contributions were enough to keep him alive. Lan Yu believed until the end that his victories were enough to guarantee his safety. Nian Gengyao kept writing memorials until the very end, convinced that sincerity could reawaken the emperor's trust. They were all trapped in the same mode of thinking, using past merit to interpret their present situation. But the world had already changed. The man sitting on the throne was thinking about an entirely different set of problems. True wisdom is not about how great your achievements are. It is about whether you can reassess your own position when the landscape shifts. Knowing how to fight is one kind of ability. Knowing when to stop is another and a far rarer one. Han Jin was in his early 40s when he died. Lan Yu was killed in his prime. Nian Gengyao was 47. They were not failures. They completed their missions. They simply did not realize that after the mission was complete, the rules of the game had changed. Every new dynasty must undergo the same transformation, from a war machine into a governing machine. And the sharpest blades are often quietly put away when peace arrives. Not because the blade has dulled, but because peace has no use for blades. Those who understood this put the blade down themselves and walked away quietly. Those who did not stood in place, blades still in hand, waiting for someone else to come and take it. This logic does not exist only in the imperial courts of 2,000 years ago. In any power structure, a company, an organization, even a nation, when a person becomes indispensable during a crisis, their position grows precarious the moment the crisis ends. Ability was never the problem. Failing to turn around at the right moment is. What history truly eliminates is not people with ability. It is people who have ability but cannot see that the wind has already changed.